This is probably a noise that you have become well accustomed to. If you're a BMW driver and your car has brake squeaks, it's just rules for the road. It's something that happens. My 2010 X5 here, it developed a brake squeak from the rear after I let my son use it for an aggressive driver's training course where he was doing a ton of hard braking. Well, that glazed over the pads pretty good. See, normal BMWs have very aggressive pad compounds on them so that they can brake really well. You know, the ultimate driving machine. Well, that leads to lots of brake noises. When I was working in the dealership, I dealt with lots of those. So what I'm going to do today is some of the steps that I used to do while working on customer cars. Except for one new one, because I don't have access to be able to turn rotors. We didn't actually turn rotors in the dealership. We just replaced them because dealership stuff. I'm going to use a brake rotor hone to break the glaze, and then I'm going to rebed the pads and rotors together when we're all done. First things first, we got to get the rear brakes apart. So I've already got the wheel pulled off, and you can see here a couple important areas to pay attention to. Make sure you've got no heavy corrosion here or here on your wheel, because it's going to make it very difficult to come off, and it could lead to improper torque application when you put it back on. Brake squeaks can come from a lot of different areas. The spring clip, the sliders back here not being properly lubed, the pads sticking, all sorts of different things. So we're going to address all of them in one fell swoop, take it apart, clean it, re-lube it, break the glaze, and hopefully make the squeak go away. To get our spring clip off, I like to use a pry bar, push in and pull back. That gets it out of the opening. We've got two lubrication points. You can see the shiny surface here. That's where it's sliding along the edge. And then right in here, it's just kind of pivoting. Then I come in from the back side, and then I can push the caliper over just a smidge to get some looseness on there. Then we'll pop our back caps off to get our slide pins out. Our slide pins are 7mm hex. You can see they don't have a ton of torque on them because they're not actually retaining anything. They're just allowing the caliper to slide. With the slide pins out, you can rotate your caliper back, grab your pad before it falls on the floor. I can see these are aftermarket pads. That's probably contributing a lot to my noise. No BMW pads have this funny air groove in them. And I don't see a name. A Jurid pad would be a factory pad. These are Wagner's, it looks like. So, cheaper parts store pads. Everything looks good here. There's just a tiny bit of lube there. This looks good. Nothing really going on. Now, ideally, you want to support your caliper up so that it's not hanging off of the hose like this. I'm just going to set it back in here for the time being, grab a bungee cord. That way I can get it safely out of the way. I want to make sure there's not a ton of tension there while we're taking it apart. Now we're going to need this is an E18 to get our caliper bracket bolts off. Now these do have a bit of torque on them because they are actually retaining the bracket. Lower one's a little tougher to get to because of the angle of the control arm there. Now to pull our rotor off, we've got a 6mm Allen. What's up with my gun? Somebody turn this down. Nobody needs to turn the gun down. It shouldn't have that much torque on it. I always put a little anti-seize on here so that you can get it off later. Make sure that your parking brake's not engaged, otherwise there's no chance on earth you're going to get this off of here. And my parking brake is adjusted pretty well, so it came off no problem. So as you can see with the rotor hone, we're able to break the glaze and get a nice uniform finish with a non-directional cut on it. This is oftentimes how you're going to get a rotor out of a box. It's going to have some sort of cut on it that is non-directional so that you don't get any weird air veins or anything going on with your pad contact. So what we'll do now is we'll just hit this with a little brake clean, get it cleaned up, back on the surface. when you go to put your disc retainer bolt in, that's it. Just a little baby ugga. That's it. Nothing else. It's not doing anything except retaining it in place until you get the wheel on. When you get the 5 wheel bolts in there, it can't move. So don't think of that as what's holding the rotor in place. It's holding it in place right now, and that's it.
Instead of an ugga, it's a guh.
Instead of an ugga, it's just a duh. That's it. Little baby impact, no problem. For our bracket, we're just gonna clean this up a little bit with a wire brush. We're gonna re-lubricate it, throw it back on. So our bracket to the wheel hub, big bolts. These are 110 Newton meters. Technically, BMW calls for replacing these. It says renew in the instructions. I believe that's because originally they were micro-encapsulated, which means they have built-in Loctite. I've never replaced or Loctited these bolts working at a dealership and doing probably thousands of brake jobs, nor had I ever seen anybody else do that. So you pick, do what you gotta do.
Your brake gloves are very vibrant against all the gray.
Yeah. They haven't ripped like my plastic gloves from Costco.
Those were ripped.
Those gloves suck.
Right?
I will not buy those again. 110 is about 80 foot-pounds. So a decent amount of torque, but not too much. If you're using an impact, it's about and you're solid. A 1/2 inch impact. 3/8 impact, it's a few more before I feel like it's good. So for our brake pads, what I'm gonna do is we've got this rigid edge all the way across and around. I'm just gonna gently break it with a file and breathe in as little of this brake dust as possible. We're just trying to get a smooth edge so we don't have any sharp corners that are going to contact our new rotor face. And just in case there's a piece of metal or something sticking up in the pad, we're going to run it across the top because there are little tiny splinters of metal in these pads. Just break this surface a tiny little bit. The new rotor surface is definitely going to cut into these. For lubrication, I like to put a little bit of anti-seize or brake lubricating compound, whatever you have on hand, on my metal friction points where they're going to slide. Not so much that you're going to create a brake dust catch, but enough to allow everything to move. And then where the outside of our caliper has some pivot point here, I put just a dab there as well. Then we can slide this onto our bracket. We'll pop this one back into the caliper. And pop the caliper over top. And I always give it a little wiggle wiggle. It's just what I do. For our slide pins, you want to use some sort of lithium style soap or grease that's not going to dry out. Otherwise, if the grease dries out on these slide pins, you've just created a sticky trap. This stuff should not dry out. And again, this is another thing that I was using for a decade in the dealership. If you get the little brake grease with your brake pads, you can use that as well.
Lithium grease didn't dry out. That's cool.
Now these should be torqued to about 30 Newton meters, which is not all that much, like I mentioned before, because they're not retaining anything, they're allowing the caliper to slide on them. Again, if you don't feel like you have a calibrated wrist, 30 Newton meters. And do not forget your little protective caps, because without these, that little bit of lithium grease I put in there is going to attract dust and dirt, and we don't want that. We want to keep everything clean and tidy. The 2 contact points we talked about on our spring, same thing. Tiny little bit of anti-seize lubricant. Then we're going to slide it in. For the spring, you have to make sure you get your 2 outside points, get a thumb in between so you can pinch it real good, and then slide it in, give it a good slap. Once you give it a good slap, it's not going anywhere. Then just a tiny bit more anti-seize on the outside here. As you can tell, I'll probably go home tonight, which is right over there, looking like the Tin Can Man, covered in silver. That stuff, once it gets on you, it's going to get everywhere. So yes, I'm going to put this on with an impact on the lowest setting. And then once it's on the ground, I torque it. Now I'll do the other side. If you don't have one of these hone wheels, obviously I'll have a link to one down below in the description. There are also brake sprays that you can try that we used to use as well. You spray it on the surface of the rotor, drive, spray it on the surface of the rotor. You got to try to get it in the back too. And that will also help to break the surface of both the pad and the rotor and get a nice clean mate. So one thing to keep in mind before you go hog wild on trying to clean up a rotor is the actual rotor face. We started on the other side real quick, and you can see that the face of the rotor, I don't have any aggressive lip on here. If there's huge lippage on there, what's going to happen is you'll definitely get some adverse wear on your pads as they're sitting on there. The other thing that you need to pay attention to is whether or not you are above the minimum thickness of the rotor. If you are below the minimum thickness, a lot of other things can happen like brake rotor warping and not getting enough pad travel and yada, yada, yada. So on the rotor itself, you're going to have a minimum thickness stamped. This one specifically is 18.4. I've got my Chicago brand stainless hardened micrometer here, and this is a brake mic with a pointy edge on it. Only a pointy edge on one side, but either way, I've had this for like 18 years at this point. What you want to do is you want to check in 3 areas of the rotor. So in the inside, the middle, and the outside. And this one I'm going to check right here. We've got 19.7, 19.78, 19.8. So it's actually wearing a little thinner on the inside, but we're well above our minimum thickness. If you're below your minimum thickness and you're going through and you're chasing a brake squeak, might be a good time to change your brakes. It's a cheap investment in the safety of your vehicle and the longevity of your being able to drive it. In this case, obviously, we're fine. One more thing to check on the right rear and the left front, you're going to encounter a brake pad wear sensor. And in this case, we have the old style 2-stage that's extra thick, and you can see this flat face. That's because it is in fact contacting the rotor surface. One thing we used to do at the dealer is we'd cut that first face off of there, because until you get to 3.5 millimeters, it's not time to replace the brakes. The CBS data or consumption-based data on this car is going to be pretty good. It wasn't that great at this time. So getting rid of this isn't going to really make a big difference. You'll know because you'll get down to that second wear bar indicator inside there, and it'll tell you it's time for brakes. If you're doing this kind of work on your car, you're probably cognizant of whether or not you have a lot of brake pad left. Right now, we have about 6.5, 7 millimeters, which is more than enough. That's a little bit less than half of what we would have started with. One other small trick, if your brake pad sensor is one of these old dual stage and it's making contact, it's got the little spring retainer in it, but one thing that you can do is you can add a little bit of black RTV, just a tiny little bit. And this is going to give us a little bit of impact resistance while that sensor is contacting the rotor and going whee. Hopefully the RTV will help to slow that down and not have as much vibration, and no vibration means no noise. Once that dries, that'll help do the trick. Like I said before, We're covering all of our bases at once here, so we don't have to take it apart a second time. Cross our fingers. So when you get your car on the ground, a couple important things. Because we were expanding the calipers, now we've got an air gap between the pads and the rotors. One thing that you can do is start your car up. You're gonna have to put your foot on the brake, right? Pump the brake before you start the car. That'll push those pads down and it'll preset everything. That way you don't accidentally, depending on the model of vehicle you have, throw it into reverse and go whoop out the door with no brake pad. Definitely seen that a few times at the dealership. Done it myself once or twice. Before we get driving, here's what we need to do. We need to rebed the pads into the rotors. We have fresh surfaces on both of them. In order to do so, you don't want to just go driving willy-nilly. What would be ideal is if you can get up to 35 to 45 miles an hour and then brake slowly down to 5 or 0. Then do it a couple of times, not getting the pads too hot and having a little bit of space in between. Doing that is going to transfer material from the pads to the rotors and give you a nice biting surface. If it gets too hot, that's when you get the glazing, like what we were dealing with originally. So what we're gonna go do is do some nice light pad applications, no emergency braking, and get these things bedded in. Then we'll drive around and see if the noise comes back. Well, just like that, we've put about 45 miles on the car. No brake squeaks. We've been in town through traffic, on the freeway, in neighborhoods, fast, slow, and everything in between. So far, so good. If this video helps you to solve your brake squeak, let us know down in the comments what other tricks of the trade have you used in the past, and what else might I be looking for when I encounter this later. I really appreciate you guys watching. Like, subscribe, and comment, and then I will see you in the next video.